Today on our 2014 Dodge Charger, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the T1 vehicle wiring harness with 4-pole flat trailer connector, part number 118560. So here's what our wiring is going to look like. Now it is going to provide us with a 4-pole flat trailer connector, which is going to give us our running lights, turn lights, and brake signals so we can get down the road safely. It does also have a nice dust cap to keep any kind of dirt and debris out of the connector. However, when we're not using it, we can open up our trunk and we can store it inside of our trunk since it is going to stay on the inside of the vehicle. Now everything is included that we need to get it installed, and it is a fairly straightforward installation. We're just going to have to make a few connections behind our taillights as well as a connection point at the battery. Now that we've seen what it looks like, let's go ahead and show you how to get the wiring installed. To begin our installation, we're going to open up our trunk and we're going to need to remove the panels that are in here. So we can go ahead and lift up on the floor covering to expose our spare tire and battery. And we'll start by working on taking out the threshold that's right at the back. Now if we want to go ahead and reach underneath, you're going to want to kind of pry away and up, and that'll loosen up those clips that are holding it in place. Just going to want to work your way across. Then you can just pull up on it, and it'll release the clips holding it in place up here. Now we're going to set this aside so it won't get damaged. Now on each side of our trunk towards the end, we're going to have some tie-down hooks for the cargo net. I'm going to take a trim panel tool and I'm going to come behind it. I'm just going to pop it out and pry it out because they're just pressed in and locked in like that. And there's going to be one at the bottom as well. Just want to pry underneath it and pop it out. And we'll go ahead and do that for the other side as well. Now at the very corner, right by our tail light in the trunk area, we're going to have a plastic screw that's holding the carpet in place. Now you're going to want to take a Phillips screwdriver and very gently unscrew the center section. And I say gently because if you push too hard, it's going to push that center section back in and lock it back down. So you're going to want to have light pressure while you're unscrewing it. And the center section should come out, and then we can take a flat blade screwdriver and pop the outer section off, just like that. Now we're going to have one on the other side as well, and we can go ahead and remove that too. Now just towards the inside of our trunk, still on the top edge, we're going to have another tie-down hook in place. We're going to have to remove that. I'm going to be using a T20 Torx bit to pull that bolt out that's holding it in place. And we are going to have one on the other side that'll need to be removed as well. You're going to want to grab the carpet and come down to the bottom edge. We can just slowly kind of peel it back so that we can gain access to our taillight socket right here. Now if you need to, you can kind of just push it out of the way, maybe hook it on to the panel for the floor covering. But if we come to our taillight socket, there's going to be a small tab on the top. You're going to want to push in on that tab, which is going to release the locking tab. And then we're going to unplug our taillight. Now we're going to do that on both sides of our vehicle. So starting here on the driver's side, we're going to grab the yellow, brown, and red cable with the T connector on it. And you're going to notice that one of the ends in our T connector is going to match the taillight exactly. And the other end is going to be the male end. So we're going to take the male end and plug it in to the female end coming off of our vehicle, and take that end that's identical to the one on our vehicle and plug it into our taillight. And we're going to kind of gently route our wires down towards the carpet. We can go ahead and loosely put our panel back, making sure that we get it all tucked behind the weather stripping. And we're going to start routing our wires over towards the passenger side. This time we're going to grab the green, red, and white wires, and we're going to connect them the same way we did on the driver's side. Again, we're just going to take our excess wires and we're going to tuck them behind the carpet and then put the panel back into place. Just want to make sure that you get all your seals put in the appropriate place and they're not getting bunched up or anything interfering with anything. With our taillights connected, we're going to go ahead and take our ring terminal that's connected to our white wire, and this is going to be for our ground. So I'm going to grab a 10mm socket and I'm going to loosen the nut that's holding down our negative terminal on our battery. Now, since that nut does not want to come all the way off, there is a little trick that I'll show you. We're going to take a pair of cutters and we're going to cut a section out of our ring terminal. Just grab a pair of cutters and we're going to cut a small notch. And the notch only needs to be big enough so that you can slide it over the stud. Now the ring terminal is in place and we didn't have to risk damaging the nut or the stud on the battery post. So now we're going to have a fuse holder, and at the end of it we're going to have a yellow wire that's got another ring terminal on it. So we're going to come to our fuse box, which is just going to be right behind our battery or towards the back of the vehicle. If we push in on this tab, we can lift the cover out of the way. And if we look towards the end here, we're going to have a post with the cable that's coming from the positive side of our battery. That's where we're going to be connecting our ring terminal to. So again, we're going to take a 10mm socket and we're going to loosen up that nut. I'm going to take the nut off. We slide our ring terminal over the post. And if we stay in line with the way the factory wiring is going, we shouldn't have to worry about the wire interfering with the cover. And we can tighten that nut back up and replace the cover. Now we are going to have one more thing we're going to have to do before we can get everything in place. We're going to have to mount our converter box. Now they do provide us some double-sided tape on the converter box, and we're going to mount it way down here, just right next to our fuse panel and the trunk pan in between our spare tire. So I'm going to take a rag, I'm going to clean off the surface, making sure there's no dirt or debris, so that double-sided tape's going to stick nice and good. Then we can take our converter box and peel back the protective coating. You're going to want to put it into position where you want it to go. And you're going to push firmly on the converter box, making sure that glue sticks nice and good. And with the converter box in place, we can take the gray connector and we're going to line it up. And we can plug it in to our converter box, making sure it locks into place. Now all we have left to do is tidy up all of our wires and take some of the provided zip ties, and I'm going to tie it to the existing wiring back here. Then we put all the panels back in place. For our ground, we did come up with a better way and a better spot for our ground. Since it is going to have to go across and go over that open spot here, I really don't like it sitting there. So I'm going to remove it from the battery. Make sure to tighten up the post. And we're actually going to attach it to the ground point right here on the frame on the inside of our trunk pan. So again, using that same 10mm socket, we're going to loosen it up. And if you did cut your ring terminal, you can just loosen it up and slide it over just like we did on the battery post. And if you didn't, you're going to want to take that nut off all the way and then retighten it. And that's just going to be a lot more secure and more out of the way, so we're not going to have to worry about that wire going across our fuse panel in case we do need to get inside. Now there's no exact way you need to put your wires, the excess wires, tied up. You just want to take your time, clean up any wires, make sure they're not going to interfere with the panel going back into place. You just want to take some zip ties and tie them up out of the way, bundle them up so you don't have a big nest of wires back there. And one more thing is you want to double check and make sure that your 15 amp fuse is in the fuse holder, so we can make sure everything is working properly. And I'm just going to take my fuse holder, I'm actually going to zip tie the excess to that existing wiring here. That way I can still have access to that fuse in case anything were to ever happen. So once you have all your wires tied up neatly, you go ahead and take your threshold panel. You're going to want to line it up, making sure that the pins are going to fit back into place. And then push it back into its corresponding holes, making sure that everything lines up. You just want to make sure that the fuse holder and the converter box isn't going to interfere with anything. Now your 4-pole wiring, you can just kind of route to the side, making sure that it's not going to get stuck underneath the panel, and we can start working on putting all of our tie downs back. And for that plastic screw that goes right here, we're going to take the outer section, and you're going to push the outer section in first. Then you're going to take the Phillips end. We're not going to have to worry about screwing it in. Just going to push it in, and it'll lock that clip in place. And we're going to repeat all that for the driver's side. So we can take our 4-pole connector, and we're going to lower our floor covering back down, and it's going to fit right between the floor covering, and it's just going to store either on top of our floor covering or underneath where our spare tire is, but we can go ahead and test it to make sure that our wiring is working properly. So I got my 4-pole tester here. Now if you need one of these, you can pick one up on our website using part number I26. I'm going to take my 4-pole wiring, I'm just going to drop it out the back of my vehicle, and whenever we're ready to tow, so long as we watch out for the latch that's right there at the center of our trunk, just move it to one side or the other, and the seal is going to protect our wires, so we're not going to have to worry about it getting damaged. So with it plugged in, I'm going to grab an extra set of hands so they can run my lights, and I can verify that everything's working properly. Can I have the headlights, please? Looks good. Left turn signal. Good. Right turn signal. Good. The brakes. Good. And finally the brakes and both turn signals, please. With everything looking good, we're ready to hit the road. Then I'll finish up our look at the T1 vehicle wiring harness with 4-pole flat trailer connector, part number 118560 on our 2014 Dodge Charger.
Thanks for watching. Click the link in our description below to shop, learn more, or visit us at eTrailer.com and leave a comment if you have any questions.